Hot Ones is the show with hot questions and even hotter wings. For nearly a decade, Shawn Evans has interviewed some of the world's biggest celebrities while simultaneously challenging them to eat some incredibly spicy chicken wings. I've thoroughly enjoyed every episode that I've seen so far, and as a fan of the show, I've decided to create an imaginary scenario in which the special guest is Deadpool. To do this, I'm going to build an action figure diorama that includes some tiny bottles of hot sauce and a handful of itty-bitty chicken wings. Let's begin by taking a quick look at the action figure that I'll be using for this diorama. This is the 1/6 scale Deadpool 2 figure made by a company called Hot Toys. It stands approximately 12 inches tall and is the most detailed looking Deadpool figure that I've seen on the market. It comes with a variety of accessories as well as multiple sets of interchangeable hands and eyes. The posability and articulation of this figure isn't quite as extensive as the smaller Marvel Legends Deadpool action figure, but this one looks much more realistic, and since we won't be doing any crazy action poses today, it's the ideal figure to use for this project. Now let's analyze the Hot Ones set to determine exactly what we'll need to build. The background is completely black, there are some tables in between the host and the guest, and on each table you'll find an assortment of hot sauces, a platter of hot wings, a pitcher and some glasses filled with water and milk, and finally some red napkins. It's time to build all of these things in miniature form, starting with the hot sauce bottles. Here we have the official Hot Ones Buffalo hot sauce. Most of the bottles on the show are the same shape and size as this one, with the exception of the Bomb Beyond Insanity, which is in a smaller bottle. I'm going to use a 3D scanner to scan these bottles and get an exact 3D model of their shape. The scanning process is pretty straightforward, and if you want to learn more about this particular device that I'm using, check out this video on my channel for more information. After completing the scans, we ended up with these 3D models, which are looking pretty good. And from here, I can shrink the models down to 1/6 scale in my slicing software, and then I'll send the files over to my resin 3D printer. After about 1 or 2 hours, I ended up with several tiny hot sauce bottles ready to be painted. When painting the bottles, I tried my best to match the color of each one to the color of each sauce. Some of them are bright orange, while others are darker, and some of them are shades of green and brown. Finally, we'll need to make some labels for the bottles, and luckily, there were some high-quality photos of each one on the Heatonist website. I downloaded the images and stitched them together to create some miniature labels, which I printed out onto sticker paper and then applied onto each bottle. On the official Hot Ones sauces, I also applied a water slide decal with the Hot Ones logo over the yellow wrapper. This particular assortment of sauces is based on season 23 of the show. We've got the Hot Ones Buffalo sauce, as well as Smokey J, Stellar Fuzz, Los Calientes Verde, Queso Sin Queso, Morita Bourbon Maple Reaper, Forbidden Fruit, The Bomb Beyond Insanity, Matasanos, and the hottest of them all, the Last Dab Experience. So with the hot sauce bottles completed, we can now move on to preparing the rest of the items to place on the table. I went online and downloaded some 3D models of the parts that I needed. Each of them is listed here, along with a website that you can download them from. I made a few modifications to customize them to my liking, and then I 3D printed them and began the process of painting each piece. For the hot wings, I first applied a base coat of orange, and then I added various shades of brown to simulate the look of a cooked wing. To fill up this pitcher and the glasses, I used both white and clear glue to mimic the look of milk and water. And then I added some tiny 3D printed ice cubes inside as well. I painted the cutting boards a tan brown color to look like wood. And lastly, I cut up some small pieces of red fabric for the napkins. Now we're finished with all of the items that will go on top of the table. That just leaves us with the backdrop to make. I picked up a couple of pieces of foam board from my local dollar store and used them for the floor and the walls. Then I cut up a few smaller pieces of foam board and glued them together to make the tables. I placed some black fabric on top and added a couple of chairs, and lastly finished off the scene by arranging all the other parts into place. Now, at the beginning of this video, I showed you the Deadpool figure that I'll be using. But what about the host of the show, Shawn Evans? Well, unfortunately, he doesn't have an official action figure yet, so we're gonna have to build a custom figure to use as a placeholder. I have a fairly large collection of action figure head sculpts, and I searched through them trying to find one that looks somewhat similar to Shawn. I eventually decided on this head sculpt of Jason Statham. If I shoot the scene from behind, you won't be able to see his face, and it'll look close enough to Shawn Evans. I picked out a few pieces of clothing and dressed up a generic action figure body and put the head on top to complete the figure. Let's sit the figures down and take a look at our final scene. Here it is, Deadpool on an episode of Hot Ones. I'm sure this would be an instant classic episode, because you know Shawn would do a deep dive and come up with some insightful questions. What do you think he would ask? And how do you think Deadpool would fare against these insanely spicy chicken wings? Finally, if you could pick any dream guest to be on the show, who would you want to see? Let me know in the comments below and check out more of my work on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.